Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Balancing Security and Functionality with SQL. We'll be together today for about 45 minutes, and I have a lot of exciting opportunities and options to share with you. I'll try and leave some time at the end for Q&A, but if I do go long a bit, any questions that you chat in will be answered by one of our fantastic support engineers. My name is Brandy Lulling, and I am the support manager for the business intelligence team here at Fortra. And I am really excited to be sharing how Viewpoint can help you manage product and data security. Here's our agenda for today. I'll be sharing several slides, but also have a few demos planned. So don't hesitate to chat in your questions as we go along. And again, we will get to them as soon as we can. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Our first step, I think, should be is an overview of the Viewpoint Administrator itself. Viewpoint Administrator installs using the same exe as Viewpoint. To install it, just be sure to select the custom install option and then select Administrator. There are a few notes to remember about this, though. First, if it's not installed and you take the option to install it, you will need to provide a password. This is for security purposes because not everyone should have administrator on their PC. And the password itself changes with each new version, and it can be obtained from support. Just give us a call or create a case, and we will be happy to provide that for you. If administrator is already installed and you are upgrading Viewpoint, just be sure that you have the box checked for administrator, and you will not be prompted for another password. So once it's installed, you don't need to worry about that. Third, if you have administrator installed and you don't want it to be, or you know a user has it and they shouldn't, you can run back through the Viewpoint exe, take the custom install option and uncheck the administrator box, and that will uninstall it. The Viewpoint Administrator provides a single point of access to many functions related to the administration and security of the product. It should be installed only on select PCs. And again, it will require a password for for the initial installation. There's a couple different ways you can access the administrator. So one, if you have Viewpoint open, you can go to Tools and then Viewpoint Administrator, like the screenshot on the left shows. Or just from your PC, you can go into a list of all apps, or what used to be all programs, and find Sequel Viewpoint and then Administrator from that list. So this is what the Administrator window will look like. And don't worry, we're not going to go through every single option, but we are going to touch quite a few of them. So set defaults, auditing, database and advanced database security, dynamic drill down lists, and the SWI function authorization. And then we'll talk about library lists as well for Viewpoint jobs, but that is done outside of the administrator. All right, so let's start with the top option, set defaults. You may be familiar with the green screen command setdft or setdft. And this is the graphical representation, and it allows you to set individual options for one or many users. If you're looking to make a global change for product defaults and all new or existing users, select the star DFT, as you can see is highlighted here in the upper left of the first screenshot. You can double click on star DFT or highlight it and click OK. The resulting window will look the same no matter which profile or template you select initially. I've highlighted the administrators. You'll see there's quite a few administrators on this particular system. It's a test system. It makes sense for us. Your system most likely won't be this way. But to be considered an admin in the Viewpoint Administrator, the user's profile must have at least star use authority to the object SQ $DFT in the Sequel product library. The various setting options are sorted by tabs, and upon entering this window, you are taken to the General tab. On this tab, you have 3 options that are relevant to product security: job description, option file, and option member. The job description is created and maintained through the IBM iOS. It's just a regular job D. And it allows you to set logging levels and library lists along with a few other options. The option file and option member settings are specific to Sequel Viewpoint and help control the predefined drill downs used through the application, the drill down application object. Now, we're not going to talk about those. However, I did want to pause briefly and let you know that the application drill down can be considered another option for security, as you control the drill down between one data set and another. There aren't any security related settings on the print report tab, so we're just going to skip right over that one. And we'll go to the view design tab. You have 5 different security related options here. Object authority checking, which is used with our built-in database security or advanced database security options that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. From file prompt library and default view creation library are security related, as they help direct end users which values to use when creating or saving views. And you'll see in just a few minutes or at some point before we're done here that these values can essentially be locked. So whatever you set here is the only thing that the users will be able to access. The next PARM in the list is the default view creation library. And this allows the administrators to define which library should be used when saving viewpoint objects. And later you'll see how these values again can be locked. The public authority is used when saving new viewpoint objects and will set the public authority option on the user space object itself. So anytime you create an object, whether it's a report, a dashboard, a table, or a view, a script, and so on in Viewpoint or in SQL, it's saved as a user space type object. So the public authority parameter sets the object authority for star public on that IBMI object. Now, to help not only create a more secure environment, but to aid your end users in designing, you can define them as template users only. The default template library is one of the options you will need to specify to do this. All right, so flipping to the View Results tab, there's 4 more security-related parameters. First is default out file library, which can be used to direct output from a viewpoint object when creating an IBMI out file or physical file from a result set. And like the default view creation library, this value can be locked so users cannot change it. Administrators also have the option of setting if records should be added or replaced when creating that IBMI output. So you can ensure that the users aren't overwriting what is already there. And query auditing, which we'll talk about more in depth here in just a few minutes, is a feature that allows you to access information on what's being run and who is running it. The repository replace action parameter is really an exciting option if you are using the Viewpoint repository or not. It works either way. And it allows you to select by user if you'll be creating versioned copies of the viewpoint objects that are created, or if the objects will be replaced or overwritten when they're being resaved. So if you have a view called ABC, someone goes in and edits that view and saves it again, do we overwrite what was there, or do we create an ABC underscore 0001, for example, as a versioned copy? Now, on the host tab, you'll find that the library for the query options file. This is where you will enter the name of the library that holds IBM's QAQQINI, which I've always found fun to say. IBM's QAQQINI file, which contains query processing control options. The other tab has the 4 final yet powerful security-related options available. So first, the allow change to library defaults will allow or deny your users the option to change the library name when they save the views or other viewpoint objects. So this is how you lock out that option. So it's also used to control the same type of function when creating an out file. If this box is unchecked, then the user can save only to the libraries. I'm sorry, when this box is checked, the user can save only to the library specified in their defaults. The allow viewpoint design mode option allows you to select who can create and or edit, go into design mode of existing views and reports, dashboards, etc. If this box is unchecked, then the user is display only. So they can display results and or create output, but they can't go into design and change. They also cannot create new. The third option, the assistance level controls the assistance level, which controls the environment that viewpoint users can access. So we've got a few different options here. Basic and intermediate in the dropdown will take users to what we call the view builder, which is more like a view creation wizard. With the intermediate, you will have the view builder as well, but you'll have options to access the SQL tab and the files and fields tab, but basic you will not. The limited option that you can select from this dropdown works in conjunction with the default template library parameter that we just talked about on the View Design tab. If the box is checked and a library is entered, then the user will be considered a template-only user, which will give them limited access to design views. They won't actually be able to access View Builder or View Designer. Someone will have to create or use a view as a template for them. So you can predefine your joins, predefine column headings, and so on. Template users would just be able to pick whichever fields were already selected for them. Really handy for end users who aren't familiar with the data at all, which can prevent incorrect joins, which obviously would create bad data, runaway views, and honestly just prevent users from having access to data that they shouldn't have access to. The advanced option will take users into the standard view designer that you're probably all familiar with using already. And then the final option in this dropdown is user profile. And that will just default the viewpoint assistance level to whatever's listed on that user's IBMI profile. All right, the final option, the allow command line functions. With this box unchecked, users are unable to create or edit scripts, script views, or drill down applications. The user will get an error that they're not authorized if this is selected for them. All right, so once you make a change to any of the settings, you'll need to apply it to the appropriate user or users. You can select a customized group or use select all. So if we see here, I've selected just my Brandy L profile, it's getting locked down. Again, you can do select all, or if you do that on accident, you can clear all and start over. So one, many, or all. The changes that you make will become effective immediately, but anyone that happens to be in Viewpoint at that time will need to close and reopen Viewpoint. Right. So the next option, host auditing. This module lets you keep track of SQL and Viewpoint requests that are being run on your system. And once the auditing is turned on through those set defaults that we were just in, it will record information about each view or SQL statement that accesses records in your database. By keeping track of each request, you can find out things like who's using Viewpoint the most or the least, when are the peak use times, what kind of impact Viewpoint use is having on your system, what access paths are being created on which files, how much time it takes to create the access paths, and so on. Auditing itself can be turned on through one of the defaults that we just saw through set defaults, or it can be turned on directly through the host auditing module by just taking the option for set audit defaults. To evaluate the data that's captured by auditing, you must first you have to turn it on and let it run. But then you have to analyze using the manage audit data, or you can create a scheduled job that runs the ANZ odd data command. And that can be done through either robot schedule or either the IBM job schedulers. It's recommended that you run this periodically, especially if your system is kind of a high traffic system. Analyze audit data, if it's left maybe monthly or quarterly, it can take a bit to run. So when you run it through the manage audit data here or job scheduler, it gets submitted. Don't recommend running this unless you're doing it daily on a lower activity system. Wouldn't recommend running it interactively. All right, I'll give you a break for just a minute on your on the PowerPoint slides here, and I'll do a demo. I wanted to just show you what audit data looks like, how easy it is to maneuver. So let me go ahead and bring up Viewpoint. I already have it open. I'll go to Tools and Viewpoint Administrator, and then if you have more than one system, you'll have to select which system you want to work in. And we'll go into Host Auditing. Now I've got my system set up to prompt every time, so you'll see me log in and out a few different times throughout our session today. All right, I have actually already run the manage audit data, because again, it can be a bit long running, but this is what it would look like for you. So we'll just go to show audit data. You can do it by object, user, job name, access path. So we can see information about what's being run, the type of file that's being used, and you can double click and kind of drill down and get more information about it. That includes when it was run, the CPU time it took to access it, IO count, and so on. Excuse me. You can also see audit command summaries. So you can tell that Viewpoint is the tool that's being used with this object. Nobody's done a delete or update, insert, execute, and so on. You can also do a show audit query. So it'll help you define what information you want to see, which is really handy if you are doing this monthly or quarterly. Maybe you don't want to analyze all of the data, you want to specify just a small data set. Audit graphs can be created. on the fly. Excuse me, apologize. And you can take the, month, week, or year, so on. I just turned auditing on the system, so there's not a lot of information, but you can see we had 105 requests in November, and so far in December, there's only 8. All right, so that is host auditing. Pretty straightforward. Just note that once you have auditing turned on, it does use journals and receivers. So if you have that turned on, it might create a lock when you upgrade the product. All right, so on to our next topic, implementing database security. So Viewpoint includes 2 mechanisms that lets you supplement system object authority and restrict access. With database security, you can secure database files and fields, and security is based on dictionary entries that can either be defined as exclusion or inclusion with a simple 3-step process. You define your dictionary type, define your security values, and set your user's defaults. Now, advanced database security adds to that and allows you to secure not only files and fields, but also record or role level authority. And there's a few additional features added into advanced database security as well. So this and the next slide contain a side-by-side comparison of the 2 different security options, database security and advanced database security, or ADS as we call it here in support, and it's just easier to say. So we'll go through these and I'll do another quick demo to show you how it works. All right, so both options supplement IBMI object authority. Both can restrict object authority, but only database security gives you the option for inclusion or exclusion. ADS is exclusion only, which honestly we found was the more popular of the options. With ADS, you can restrict down again to the record level. And both options allow restrictions to all object profiles, which is a really nice feature. However, with ADS, it is an optional feature, and ADS also adds some additional server level security options that we'll see in just a minute. If the user's defaults or in the global start default settings with the object authority checking, the parameter must be set to star SQL. This is what activates security for the users. So even though you've gone through and set up your dictionary in Administrator, you need to go back to the user or user's defaults and change them to use our security system. If you leave that parameter at star system, Viewpoint will use the standard system object authority to validate the user requests. If you use object level authority on the system, the user will require at least star use authority to the libraries and files and views that are accessed through the user interface. Using the strict option, you will be able to provide the same functionality as star SQL, plus an additional layer of security to restrict design and runtime access that's based on the entries that you've created in the security dictionary. Now, if you are going to go with the advanced database security, you will need to set the object authority checking to star ADS. You will also need to create a default database that is an ADS type entry and associate that with the users and or the views. So first, database security. It's going to allow you to use either inclusion or exclusion method. You can set up the security from the object or the user tab. It's totally up to you. You can also go back and forth, whatever makes sense. I'm going to do a demo of advanced database security, but I wanted you to see a few of these DS screens as well. I know the screenshots are a bit small, but hopefully you can see them. On this system, we are using an inclusion dictionary, and we can see that the AR file and the ordhead file in library SQL EX are secured. Any user that is not selected defaults to using system security. The blue highlighted users are set to use SQL security, and red users are set for strict. It's essentially just a toggle. So Brandy L, Jackie D, Rich G clicked once, and that secures them for SQL. Click again, like S Clark and S Clark user, that turns it to red. Click a third time, and it turns it off totally. Switching over to ADS, you can see that the interface really is very similar, except it adds a layer of options in the rules column for record level security. This rule tells us that the user profile demo does not have authority to see details for customer number 100112. Here's the same type of information, just from the user tab, the select by user instead. So again, it's really up to you with which method you use. The server options tab is available exclusively with ADS, and we'll spend a few minutes here reviewing these options, as they're really quite impactful. So the first option, would you like to exclude users from libraries by default? You want to see either all users, you want the users to see all libraries, or exclude them by default. And then the same type of option for files. Either they want to see them all or just the ones that you allow them to see. We can apply security to supplemental groups if your profiles are using those. If you have supplemental groups, though, you will need to, and you're going to use one of our security systems, you will need to use ADS and turn this option on. Loading security information on demand, we recommend using yes, and that is the default. That loads it as the view is run, as opposed to when someone connects to Viewpoint at the for the first time in the day, or whenever they're connecting originally. It'll just speed things up a little bit if you do it on demand. I think one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful option here, is to be able to enforce ADS on all object profiles. You can enforce it. It works really well. We even do it here for users that we have come and do demos with our product, but don't necessarily know the product or the data, so we kind of lock them out a little bit. And then the option to return all libraries on the system, this is going to be based on the library list. So the user portion of the libraries lists, so you can help prevent users from seeing data or accessing data that they shouldn't get access to. All right, another quick demo. So I will take you into Advanced Database Security, and we will set up, I'll show you how it's set up, and then I'll log in, log off of Viewpoint so you can see it in action. So again, Advanced Database Security. I've already got this set up, just so you guys didn't have to sit and watch me type. So file is INV masked ADS in library demo 2, and we're going to secure the customer number field. Public has read authority to it, but my user profile can see everything except this customer number. So for whatever reason, maybe if you're doing sales data, you want to, have the salesperson view just their territories, for example, or just their commission records, stuff like that. That would be a good use case for that. So in ADS, you would just specify the library file and the column and then set the rule. All right, so in addition to that, we would have to go into set defaults. And I will choose my user profile. And we'll go to the host tab. So default database, excuse me, is local sys. And I'm going to leave it that way because the view itself is using a database that is for ADS. And then view design, object authority checking. We want to change that to ADS. And of course I got an error. Oh, and now I'm going to get another error. Okay, gotta love when that happens when you're on the live demo. Sorry about that. All right, we're going to just try it as we are. I honestly don't remember how I'm logged into Viewpoint, so I'm going to log out, log back in, and we will check this out here. Okay, so I did change things around a little bit from the screenshots that I was doing in the PowerPoint, but I'm logged in as my all object profile. The view I had already created, and again, the database is ADS_DB, and that's what one I had created that is specifically for advanced database security. You can see that this profile can see customer number 100-112. So if we switch profiles, and I log in as the one that we had secured, we'll run that same view, and that customer number should not show up. But again, there's always the curse of the live demo. So we'll see what happens. There we go. So same exact view, different profile. I do not see the customer number that we had chosen to lock out. Okay. There's a lot more, obviously, that I could show you about ADS, but we could be here for even longer than I'm already keeping you now. So we'll keep moving. All right, let's go to enforcing authorization protocols with drill downs. Now this, depending on who you talk to and your opinion, this could or could not be considered a security protocol. But because it can help hide data or prevent users from accessing data that you might not want them to, I've included it here. So the dynamic drill down field list displays from Viewpoint when you are working with a view that has a group by, so any type of grouping view, and you select regroup or show details. Or if you're using a drill down application and you're using a drill to link. So to secure your data, drill downs is really quite easy. The first time you enter, you'll have the option that you'll have a blank canvas, just like you see on the left. You just select the library and the file, and then any fields that you want to allow to be drilled into would be on the right side. So honestly, what I found easiest is to do the load fields, get all of the fields, use add all, and then one at a time remove the ones that you don't want to see, unless you only want them to see a small group of files, and then obviously you would go the other way. All right, I forgot I had another demo to do for you, so let's go ahead and do that one. Back we go. Go back into Administrator. And this is the dynamic drill down list. So one thing I will point out with Administrator is no matter which option you take, you get a little highlight at the bottom of what is, which option you're going into and basically what it's for. If you should ever want additional information or user guides, how-to information, it's in online help in Viewpoint, but we do have a specific Viewpoint Administrator user guide, and you can get that from our support portal, and it would be Sequel Viewpoint Administrator. So it is separate from the actual Viewpoint user guide. All right, so Sequel EX, we will browse files. Let's just do AR file, for example. I'll add everything, but then maybe I don't want users for some reason to be able to see the dates. All right, so easy as that. Apply and OK. So now let's go ahead and create a view. And I will use that same file. And I'm going to just select everything and display the results. Now what we're going to see is up front, when I right click, nothing happens because drill down has not been activated yet because we do not have a group by. So I'm going to go ahead and create one. I only need to do this on one field, but I'll do them on a few. All right, so now when we have our displayed results, we right click and we can see show details. So now, obviously, if you're already showing the results in the view, it doesn't matter if you're drilling into them or not. This is just an example, so keep that in mind. So show details. You see that we do not have the information that we had removed from the drill down. So just like that. The other option, just so you are familiar, is regroup. So you can regroup the data. Maybe, let's see, it's grouped right now by invoice number. Maybe you want to do it by customer number instead. So it takes the same results and runs another SQL statement behind the scenes and does a regroup for you. Right, so just some bonus information. All right, so let's see. Next topic. We're getting to the end, I promise. Hopefully your head's not spinning. This particular administrator feature is used to limit access on a user-by-user basis to several of the functions provided by the SQL Web Interface, or SWI, when you're configured through the SQL Web Server. Now, you may be familiar with those SQL Web Server. We call it Swiss because what's an IT company without acronyms? So you would need to be using that Swiss server in order to remove these to have this functionality. So the Select by Function tab shows functions and then the users that are restricted from them. When selected, the function authorization screen presents a list of the SWI functions that can be restricted. And just like the object security, you can do this by either the function or by user. So you can see here that a few of the different options available that you can have available to prevent or be locked out. So if you don't want your users creating XML files or physical files, or you don't want them to be able to email or print results, you can prevent that from happening and then either lock everyone out or lock one or multiple people out. And again, I just want to stress that this is for the SQL Web Server portion of SWI. You do not need to bounce the SWI jobs after this is done. It should take effect immediately. All right, we made it. We are at our final section for today. So utilizing library lists, kind of mentioned this at the beginning, it really is a powerful option to help with security. It might be one of the more overlooked options, especially in Viewpoint, because can be kind of confusing as to which library lists or lists are used. So in Viewpoint, we have controls for the library list that we want. The control itself does exist outside of the Viewpoint Administrator, though. So by default, Viewpoint will use the library list specified in the job description that's defined in the SQL defaults for the user that's connecting with Viewpoint. The save curlib and user list as standards for the system. It's checked as by default. And when you press OK, the library selected will be saved as a registry entry on the PC and will become the library list used for that system, no matter who's logged in. So every one of your users would need to have this done unless you want to export that registry entry and import it to other PCs. So the nice thing is you can use this method to create a unique list of libraries for Viewpoint instead of using the libraries specified on the job D for the user profile. Now, I know that we say system portion of the list and user portion of the list, but I want you to know that we do not have a way to affect change for the QSys label or QUser label system values. This is just how it's going to be accessed. The libraries that would be in the system portion list would come first as far as priority and searching goes in Viewpoint jobs. Whatever you add here does not get added to the system values. I always like to point that out because it can tend to cause panic. When you open the edit library list, what you see in system portion and user portion is what's on this is in those system values. But again, we do not write to them. All right, so we've covered a lot of information in quite a short amount of time. Hopefully, I haven't left you with your head spinning. We started with an introduction to Viewpoint Administrator, moved on to setting product defaults, auditing, advanced database security, and then we wrapped up with omitting fields from the dynamic drill down and locking out functions in SWI. If you would like more formal training, we do have several fantastic options that are available, and they're all taught online by one of our knowledgeable support analysts. They're not pre-recorded, they are going to be live. In fact, you've probably spoken with our instructors before. Rich has been supporting SQL and Viewpoint for about 20 years now, and Jackie has been for over 12. They're both great to work with, and they're fantastic instructors, so you'd be in really good hands. We'll take a look at our education services portal to find a class that might fit your needs. All right. I feared that I might talk a bit long, so I'm not going to apologize because there was a lot of information to go over, but that doesn't leave us with time really for Q&A. So any questions you have, I will make sure that I personally either respond or someone from the BI support team will get back to you, hopefully within the next, I will say within the next day or so. I truly appreciate you being a Fortra SQL customer and that you took your time to join me today, whether you're watching live or watching the recording. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, thanks again.